Let me remind all of you that we will be live streaming this presentation by Doug McGowen to all the church. And if you want to go home and see this again, the website is christchurchmemphis.org/senior. And if you've got some friends that were unable to make it here today, please just let them know of that. christchurchmemphis.org/senior. We'll be going in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Mountains are still being moved. Strongholds are still being loosed. God, we believe it. Yes, we can see that. Wonders are still what you do. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. Set our hearts on you. Come and do what you do. 'Cause we need a move. We need a move. And bodies are still being raised. Giants are still being slain. God, we believe, and yes, we can see that. Wonders are still what you do. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. Set our hearts on you. Come and do what you do. 'Cause we need a move. We need a move. Miracles happen when you move. Healing is coming in this room. Miracles happen when you move. Heaven is coming. Oh, miracles happen when you move. Healing is coming in this room. Miracles happen when you move. Heaven is coming. This is a move. This is a move. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. Set our hearts on you. Come and do what you do. This is a move. This is a move.
Okay, let's get started. I know you didn't come to hear me. Let me make just a couple of church-wide announcements. First of all, again, let me please welcome each and every one of you. Thank you very much for being here. I told Doug that we're usually a late arriving crowd, and we were right, but we appreciate all of you being here. We have any first-timers here? Thank you so much for being here. We hope that you'll come back. These salt luncheons typically meet on the third Thursday of every month, but we moved today because last week, those of you who are members of Christ Church know that we had the Joy Prom, and this place was a mess. And so we had to move it to the fourth Thursday. And next month, we will also be meeting on the fourth Thursday. Can't call it, say, it may the 27th, maybe 25th. Anyway, just check your calendars because you'll remember in previous years we did not scout out the calendar enough to realize when play day was for Christ Day School, and there's no parking here. So next month in May we will move, and then we'll move back. We'll be off on June and July, and then we'll be back in August, and I hope all of you will be ready for that. We'll have Jennifer Biggs. Jennifer is the food and dining editor for the Daily Memphian, and she's looking forward to being with us. And then in September, President Bill Hardgrave from the University of Memphis will be with us. And then the head fundraiser for ALSAC St. Jude will be here in October, I guess that is, and then the great Dick Cockrell will reprise his presentation in November, and we're looking forward to that. And next month, my colleague David Waddell will be here to tell all of you about what you can do with your modest portfolio or your huge portfolio, as the case might be. We do have lunch coming up. Debbie's prepared a salad plate for everyone that's able to stay. There's no charge for the lunch, but we do ask everybody to consider a $7 donation. You'll see a little plastic cup on your table. That's a direct pass-through of the cost to the church. We're not making a penny off of that, probably losing a little, but we're glad that y'all are here, and we hope that you'll stay for lunch. We want to thank Leanne Massey Murray for being back there and subbing for ME today, and I want to thank Debbie Adams and her crew who are in the kitchen and have prepared the lunch for us, and I know that it will be great. Any of the general announcements, Barbara, that I've forgotten before I introduce? I know you wanted me that Brother Chris wanted me to remind all of you that Vacation Bible School is coming up. You can check the website. Not unlike everything we do here at Christ Church, we need volunteers. So if you have some time on your hands, or if you've been looking for a place to get involved more with the church, that would be a great place. Those who volunteered last year, I see Paul Dorman and Dick Cockrell and others who did. I don't want to start naming names, Flip, but it's a great opportunity. Let's move on. Our speaker today has been a friend just by virtue of the fact that I've lived in Memphis all my life, and it was very difficult not to run into Doug McGowen because he's about the most energetic, enthusiastic person that Barbara and I have met in a long time. Doug, before becoming the president and the CEO of the Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, he served in the Strickland administration as the chief operating officer, chief administrative officer for Mayor Strickland and for the city of Memphis, and just did a great job there. I mean, it was phenomenal. Doug and I were talking when I was blessed to have that little interim gig as the athletic director at the University of Memphis in 2019. My first football game was the Ole Miss game, and it was a sellout. And in addition to working straight with the mayor and the council, Doug had the pleasure there of having every departmental director reporting directly to him and related agencies. And that day when the rebels were coming to town, he had them all out there. And you could see Doug McGowan's, the respect from his staff and the leadership that he portrayed out there. Prior to becoming a member of the Strickland team, if you will, and being the CAO for the city of Memphis, Doug was a commissioned officer in the United States Navy. He served, I believe, 26 years before his retirement in 2011, and his last gig was as the commanding officer of the naval base out here in Memphis, which was great. And Pastor Mike Weaver said that he and Doug were together. Mike was a firefighter and Doug was the commanding officer, but they were out there running it for all of us. Then let me just say quickly, in kind of wrapping this up so you can hear from Doug, he did serve our country for a long time as a commissioned officer. He completed multiple deployments overseas. He participated in many combat missions as a pilot of F-14 Tomcat and the FA-18. Yeah, that's great. And he was in combat in Desert Shield and Desert Storm and in Operation Enduring Freedom. Excuse me. Doug is from Meadville, Pennsylvania. Hope I'm saying that right. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from let's see, VMI, Virginia Military Institute, and he holds an MA in National Security from the United States Naval War School. He's a diverse man. He loves this city. He's presently the chair of the Mid-South branch of the American Heart Association, and he's the chair of the board of Bike Share. Please join me in giving a great welcome to our friend Doug McGowen.
Thank you all. Is this thing on? Very good. Well, thank you and welcome. Thank you for the great welcome. And I feel a little embarrassed to be here. The list of folks who are coming after me, I mean, Jennifer Biggs and Dick is going to come up and enthrall you. And I think, is Rick Shadiak coming? Is that what I heard? Or somebody from ALSAC? Okay. Well, still, I mean, I'm in high cotton here, so I guess I'm setting the bar very low so they can exceed it. But I'm very pleased to be here with you. One thing I'll ask, Allie did say from Meadville, Pennsylvania, and I didn't even think about talking about that today, but we're known for a couple things. Allegheny College, one of the oldest colleges founded in America. It's a private liberal arts college. Anybody else know what comes from Meadville, Pennsylvania, and only from Meadville, Pennsylvania? Not Stan Musial, no. The guys in the room may know this. It's a little unfair. Not saying anything against the ladies, but if you have some mechanical aptitude, I guarantee every one of you has this in your toolbox. It's kind of like Kleenex. It's a tool that you use. Kleenex is a name for tissue. There's a name for this kind of tool that is unique, but everybody calls it by this name. Anybody know? Channel lock. Anybody ever heard of channel lock tools? Channel lock tools are fiercely made in Meadville, Pennsylvania. That's their tagline. Been forged there since its inception when it was a very small tool and die company. And they're only made in Meadville, Pennsylvania and shipped around the globe. So if you see your handles with blue handles on the end, the little rubberized blue handles, that came from Meadville, Pennsylvania, my hometown. Also was the home of Talon, which is the people who invented, anybody know what Talon invented? The hookless fastener, which is also known as the zipper. So we were one time known Zipper City, USA. They went out of business. Then we were Tool City, USA. So anyway, that's where I came from. A very rural part of the country, more cows than people in our county. My town was 13,000. We were by far the largest city in the county, and so that's kind of my background and upbringing. But I couldn't be more pleased to be here with you today. I'm humbled and honored that Mayor Strickland asked me to take this role at Memphis Light Gas and Water. I will tell you, I loved working with the city for the last about 11 years. I expressed my excitement to everybody every day. I could not wait to get to work. And yes, I know we had many problems that we had to take on, but I was just very eager to get there and tackle them because we had great folks and we have great citizenry that deserves good leadership. And so when Mayor Strickland asked me to take on the role at Memphis Light Gas and Water, I told Allie this before I came up was, I said, can I have the weekend to think about it? And the weekend I was thinking about not if the job was right for me, but if I was right for the job. Because you all deserve the absolute best person in the position. And so as I told him when I took over as CAO for the city, I said, I will agree to do it. But when you find the right guy or girl for the job, you should hire them. And I'll find something else to do. Told him the same thing here. I'll just keep showing up until the right person comes along. And I'm going to keep doing the best for you that I can every day. But we deserve the best. This isn't about me trying to achieve some lifelong goal. It's about trying to provide the best service for you all. And so I mean that from my heart. We deserve the best kinds of leadership that we can possibly get here. So I'll tell you a little bit about Memphis Light Gas and Water, what we have going on. I'll tell you a little bit about what happened in the recent past, if you're interested in that, and we can take some questions. It's an exciting time to be in the utility industry, I'll tell you that. But first, I will admit, and I say this to lots of folks, Memphis Light Gas and Water is the utility that you love to hate. Everybody, however, I will say we are not unique. I talked to my friends at KUB over in Knoxville, or my friends over at EPB in Chattanooga, and they're like, no, 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 everybody hates us. We're the worst utility. So we have this argument about who's the worst utility, and the simple answer is people don't want to have to think about their utility. They just want everything to work. And then they get angry when they write a check every month and things don't work. They just expect us to make it work. And I agree, that is the bar that we should set. What business am I in? Am I in the utility business? And I asked our team this. So I said, define for me what business we are in. Like, well, we provide water and we provide gas. And I'm like, we are in the comfort and convenience business. We need to make your life more comfortable. We need to make it convenient for you to build a life, build a business, and do the other things that are important to you. And you really should not have to think about us at any time except every month when you write that check or go to my account and make that payment, or if you're on auto pay, that money just flows to us. And really, that's the bar. The hallmark of a good utility in years past was one that had reliable service, resilient power, and that means can weather any storm, and also reliable service, resilient power, and is affordable. We've always been affordable here, and we could talk about that. Nobody likes to write the check, but we've always been affordable. We have a ways to go to be as reliable as we need to be with our electrical power, and a ways to go with our resilience to make sure we can weather any storm that comes our way. And we are working to remedy that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But frankly, that's not the bar anymore. Our customers just expect, that's the table stakes for getting into the utility game. Reliable, resilient, and affordable. Our customers want fuel diversity, and they want choice, and they want carbon reduction, and they want agility to take on new technology. And I just want to be able to plug my car into my wall at home and have it charge, and no issues whatsoever. So the bar is even higher. And if you've paid attention in the news, there's this trend called the electrification of things, right? So your cars are being electrified. Heating systems are being electrified. Everything's moving to electric at the same time as we're trying to drive down our carbon footprint from all the fossil fuels that we're using. Those are just pressures. So I say it like this to our team: the electrification of things is coming at it. It's a juggernaut that is not slowing down. It is as groundbreaking as what happened after World War II. Does anybody know what happened to the electrical system after World War II? Think about it. What gigantic change would have happened that totally transformed the way we think about electricity? Think about the turn of the century, things were happening. We had the industrial, we had lots of electric power going to industries, but at our homes, what did we have? Lights, some small electric appliances. Yes, sir, you had the answer. Well, the rural electrification of America was one thing that happened in the Tennessee Valley, but that was driven before World War II, and that was just to say, hey, everybody deserves electricity. That's the way of the future. But I'll say it like this. The electrification of things is going to be as transformative to our energy generation and ability to meet the demand as was making air conditioning commercially available to homeowners. We had to completely recapitalize our electric system after World War II, because before that, we had a very light electrical load. If you can imagine, all you had was a few outlets and a few lights, but think about what's the number one consumer of energy in your home. It's likely your air conditioner. And having that commercially available and affordable to homeowners was something that didn't happen before the war. And so I tell our team, yes, electrification is coming, but we've been here before. About 80 years ago, we had to reinvent ourselves to meet the demands now that everybody has an air conditioner in their home, in addition to washers and dryers and water heaters and all those kinds of things. So we can meet the challenge. We just have to think about what our predecessors did about 80 years ago. So it is going to be a transformational time for us. Interesting factoid, if you want to know, does anybody have an EV here? An electric vehicle? Not a lot of adopters? One. All right. Two. All right, how much energy does an electric vehicle charger use? Does anybody know? About, in your home. Rough comparison, it's about the same as adding another air conditioning unit to your house. If you have central air, it's about the same amount as adding another air conditioning unit. The air conditioning unit goes on and off to keep the temperature up. The EV charger, if it's now I'm talking about a level 2 charger, one that does between 4 and 8 hours, not the one that's you plug into your current outlet that takes about 12 hours. But it's about the same as adding another high efficiency air conditioner to your home. So that's a pretty heavy load that we have to plan for in the future, and just something that you all ought to consider. Now the good news is, at the same time as you're putting that charger in, you're probably converting your home to LED lights. LED lights doesn't sound like a very big thing, but it actually, to give you an example, we're replacing all of the street lights in the city of Memphis with LEDs. Is everybody aware of that? 77,000 LED street lights we're replacing this year. It will make it much safer on the streets, much safer in the neighborhoods. That reduces our electric consumption by 55%. 55%. Unbelievable. So, but all of you pay, whether you live in an apartment or a house, you pay a street light fee every month if you live in Memphis. If you live in another municipality, you don't pay that. The municipality pays us to maintain and power those street lights. We're not changing even though I'm saving 55% on energy costs, I'm not changing your street light fee. And I won't apologize for it because I'm using that savings to actually pay for this. So to convert all of that costs a lot of money, about $40 million. I'm going to pay for that over 20 years with the savings that I have from that energy savings. And then after that, we will realize additional savings for years to come. So electrification is here to stay. It's something we all need to think about. Next month, we are going to talk about electric vehicles and bring the community together on May 24th. And then we'll bring fleet partners together on May 25th to talk about how do we handle electrification at scale of fleets. So all of that is part of what I'm calling MLGW 2045. I know what utility I am today. I know what shortfalls and pitfalls I have, and I know what I need to do to improve. But what am I going to be 20 years from now? What's our community going to look like? And you all need to help me inform that. How do you want to consume power? Do you want choice? How do we feel about natural gas as an energy source for heating? There are certain segments of the population that say, once we get rid of coal, we've got to get rid of gas. That's a decision we have to make. Is that a 20-year decision, or is that a 40-year decision? Or is that a decision we want to make at all? I need your help on that. I'm going to use that to segue into a story about my 9th day on the job. I took this job December 12th, so I guess it was the 10th day of my job. Everybody remember what happened around December 22nd, 23rd? We had the first rolling blackouts in our history because we had a polar vortex. So I had started the work. We knew there was some storms coming. We knew there was some cold weather. We expected there to be some trees down and some limbs down. And lo and behold, the temperature dropped. The winds came in. It really plummeted, very cold, very quickly. And we did have some trees come down. We had some power go out. And so on the morning of the 23rd, we were talking about how we're going to restore power for the several thousand people who had lost it. At 9:05, we started the call at 9. At 9:05, my ops team said, we just got a call from Tennessee Valley Authority. Now I'm going to stop there. Does everybody know that I just buy all of our electricity from TVA? You're aware of this. I buy the power from TVA, and then we distribute it to all of you. And so essentially we sell it to all of you. It's a full requirements document. I don't have any ability to generate power here locally yet. I might in the future. So I count on them to deliver us power. Well, so at 9:05, TVA said, we need you to tell your customers to start conserving energy. That's called emergency load curtailment level 20. And so we said, okay, as soon as we get off the call, let's put something out on social media. Let's make an announcement, send text messages. Everybody please conserve energy. Like, I'm not sure why yet, but okay. At 9:15, they called, while we're still talking about restoring power, our team said, TVA just said, we're instituting emergency load curtailment level 40. Again, day 10 on the job. I wasn't in the utility. I wasn't an expert in utility. I said, so what is that? They said, well, that means we have companies here, and some of you may be in a company that's large enough, where we have a contract with you that says you're willing to be interrupted. I will give you a discount on your electricity if, when I need you to lower your electric load, you will willingly do that to make sure that we preserve the energy grid. So we said, okay, as soon as we hang up from this call, let's start calling companies to say, I need to execute on your contract. 9:15. 9:26, TVA says we are instituting emergency load curtailment level 50. My first question is, what is that? They said, that's rolling blackouts. I said, well, you tell TVA that we'll begin that around noon, but I have to tell my customers that we're going to do this. Nobody likes to be surprised. It's not how it works, boss. We're already doing it. When they order it, by the federal standards, we have to begin curtailing power. To understand why, if you look back 2 years to what happened in Texas, it was called ERCOT, their system went down completely because they did not protect the bulk electric system. What happens is, when the demand is so high for electrical power and the supply of electricity doesn't keep up, things start tripping offline. And when they trip offline, it causes bad surges in electrical power. And for anybody who's an electrical engineer, pardon my basic description here, but I'm trying to relate it to everybody. The bottom line is it has a cascading effect, and all of the circuit breakers and switches at all those substations will start kicking offline until everybody's power is out. And then you have about a week-long endeavor just to get the system started again. Because when you start bringing it online, one breaker will come up, another one comes on, and they try to kick each other off. It's a very complex system. We do not want the bulk electric system in America. We have to protect it at all costs. That's why there's an organization called FERC, the Federal Electric Regulatory Commission, that guides what we do. So, why did we do load curtailment? Why did we do rolling blackouts? To protect the bulk electric system of America. Because it wasn't just, if we didn't interrupt power here, it wasn't just, well, somebody's lights might go out. This was going to cascade to the whole southeastern part of the United States, and then we were going to be in a world of hurt. So that's why you do rolling blackouts. We had never had to do it in our 90-year history of TVA. We'd never had to do it here at Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. We tried to do it in 30-minute increments. We have 400 circuits around the city, about 1,000 customers in every circuit. And the idea is we're going to shut off those few circuits to get about a 5% reduction, then we'll turn them back on. Shut off those circuits and turn them back on. And that was our process. That's still our process. We can do that remotely from our ops center, and that works really well. It turns off the circuits. What doesn't always work is because we have some mechanical switches, they don't always turn back on when we order them to, especially when it's cold and wet outside. Those switches get iced over and frozen in place, and they don't want to kick back on. Now, harken back to what I said at the beginning. There are small electric cooperatives, and if I didn't mention it, it wasn't just MLGW who did rolling blackouts. All 153 local power companies that get their power from TVA were ordered to do the same thing across the whole valley. Imagine the guy at a small rural electric company who has 15 to 20 employees, a very large service territory, but little bits of infrastructure. He does not have an operations center with automated switches. He has a guy in a truck that's running around trying to pull a breaker, and then hear on the radio, okay, you can turn that back on, and then drive over here. By the time they got that guy into work, because it was Christmas time, he was with his family, the event was over. So these small rurals never, to a large extent, turned any of their power off, because to do that, they had to bring people into work, get in the truck, figure out which circuit, get the book out, which we hadn't used in 90 years, try to go shut it off and turn it on. So we carried more than our fair share just because we have an automated system. We also carried more than our fair share because some of our switches didn't kick back on. So the question is, what happened? Why did we have to do it? And it's a simple matter of we did not project the impact of those things that we incentivized at the strategic level, and we didn't accurately forecast the impact of the cold weather. Weather events are happening more and more frequently. I'm not going to debate climate change. I'll just say I'm observing the phenomenon that there is more severe weather happening that I have to be ready for. What happened this time was that this polar vortex was forecast to hit the south. TVA and our partners in the eastern part of the service area, PJM, who's the largest bulk energy provider in the country, Duke Energy and others, thought that they knew what the energy consumption was going to be. Their forecast. TVA's forecast was for 25,000 megawatts. TVA has the ability to generate 35,000 megawatts. TVA had taken several units offline that they generate energy with for maintenance. So they probably had about 30,000 megawatts of capacity. I need 25, I have 30, I should be in good shape. Around the 21st or 22nd, as the cold weather started coming in, they saw the load growing, and they started to try to bring new generation on. They couldn't quite keep up, though, with the demand. The demand was climbing rapidly, and they couldn't keep up. The good news is we have contracts with the people at PJM and Duke to buy energy from them, and MISO, if you've heard that in the news, to buy energy from them. And those are firm, fixed, guaranteed contracts until they don't have any energy to sell because they got their own problems. What was happening here and there was that the generation facilities we build in the south are not inside, they're outside. They might have a roof, but the sides are open. And when the temperature drops to 25 below wind chill and the precipitation is going sideways, there are sensors on top of these coal and gas-fired systems that freeze over. And when it freezes over, it loses the signal, and the plant shuts down. So TVA lost 8,000 megawatts of generation because several plants iced over and shut down automatically to protect the system. And so now we have less generation, more demand, and we can't buy power from anywhere else. You have no choice but to start reducing the demand by cutting people off. Now, there's another step between rolling blackouts, step 50 and step 60. Step 60, guess what that is? We don't have any control. TVA just starts cutting whole customers off. Like, MLGW, I'm sorry, you're now out for the next half a day. Chattanooga, you're offline. They have to protect the bulk energy system. We hope to never get there. That's why TVA has got their foot on the accelerator to be able to put new generation resources online. That's why energy efficiency is becoming more important, why LEDs are becoming more important, because we have to match up the demand with our ability to generate energy. So anybody have a guess why the energy demand went to 37,000 megawatts? It was very cold. Anybody think our energy demand in Memphis, how do you think that fared during the weather? Our electric demand? Flat. Why is that? How many people here have electric heat in your house? One, two. How many people have gas heat in their house? Everybody else. MLGW's profile during that storm was the same as it is any other winter day. Everybody is at home. Everybody's got their gas furnace on. The companies aren't operating, so they have their temperature set low. All the apartment buildings have high efficiency heat pumps, but there's not that many compared to residences. But in the eastern part of the service area, where gas is not as plentiful, they put in heat pumps for everybody's house, electric heat pumps. And without getting into the science of that, a heat pump collects heat from the air and the ground and condenses it and puts it in your house. And in the summertime, it pulls heat from the materials in your house and pumps it outside. That's what makes your house cold. That's great and very efficient, except when the temperature is below zero, there is no heat to pump. And so people's house has to be warm. And so what they do in these heat pumps is they put electric strip heaters in. These are the things, if you've been in Costco or if you go to any store, it's just like plugging in, or if you've worked in an office, people plug a space heater under their desk, and you know what happens. You plug that in, your lights start dimming because it sucks so much power. That's what's inside all those heat pumps. They didn't understand when the cold hit that everybody's strip heat was going to kick on. It's effectively like everybody in the southeastern part of the United States decided to plug a space heater in at the same time. That's how That's how we got to 37,000 megawatts of demand. Federal government is incentivizing electric heat pumps, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a choice that we have to make in the future. Is that the source that we want to have, a backup electric heater in the electric heat pump, or do we want to have a dual fuel where we have, electric heat pump, super efficient, but it has a backup of a gas-fired generator in there for you to provide heat in extremely cold temperatures? I don't know what the answer is. I'm not predicting it, but it's something we got to talk about. But that's what happened. Did everybody know that that's why the energy kicked off? We've been talking, you thought it was just cold. Essentially, that's it. It was really cold. But the problem is the powers that be at TVA and other power providers, I'm not picking on them because it happened to PJM and Duke, and these are well-respected organizations that do a great job. We just didn't see it coming at that scale. So we're working hard to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. We're meeting with TVA regularly. Later today, we're going to have an after-action final report about what happened, what we're going to change, what we can do in the future. But I just want to let you know that it's very frustrating, especially everybody's home on the 23rd and it start cutting your power. And then they said, guess what? We're going to have to do it again tomorrow on Christmas Eve. And so they told me we're going to start at 7:30 in the morning, and at 4:30 in the morning we were ordered to cut power again. So we started cutting people's power at 4:30 in the morning on Christmas Eve. Now, I will brag a little bit on our team because though that's uncomfortable, by midnight on Christmas Eve, or midnight, I can't remember what that is, 11:59 on Christmas Eve, everybody's power was back on in Memphis, Tennessee, and Shelby County. Charlotte, Atlanta, Nashville, they were out of power till the 25th. Our team does a really good job of restoration here. And so, probably because we have a lot of practice, right? We have bad weather and our system's not very reliable, so we're really good at putting it back in place. So, let me say a couple of things real quick. It'll take some questions. We're going to make that more reliable. We have a plan called the Way Forward Plan. The good news is there's no rate increase for this. We had a rate increase in 2018 that's going to pay for this. It's $1.2 billion to make our electric system, our water system, and our gas system much more reliable for all of you. The gas plant is essentially done. The water system has largely been accomplished, but we're working to make sure that that's even more resilient, because following that rolling blackouts, we had a water distribution crisis that was caused by a whole bunch of broken, not just water mains, but actual fire protection mains in commercial buildings. That's a whole other story I can give you if you like. But the water system's in really good shape. Electrically, we're about in the middle of the pack when it comes to big utilities. Other utilities have very modern systems, automated things. We're about in the middle. We're going to put ourselves at the top with this Way Forward plan with reliability and resiliency. And what I mean by resiliency is if there's an outage, the ability to quickly restore it or to prevent an outage in the first place. So how did we get here? Decades and decades and decades of growth that was at the fringes. No rate increases for Memphis Light Gas and Water. Jim knows this because he's heard me talk about it before, but our city grew by 100%. We doubled the size from 170 to 340 square miles, and our population grew by 4%. So we built a heck of a lot of stuff. Our population only grew by 4%. That means not as many taxpayers to pay for the stuff you need, like police and fire. But for MLGW, that means only 4% more ratepayers to put stuff in those areas. It's wonderful. Growth and development is wonderful. But what that meant is you had to prioritize dollars. Am I going to put money in to drive the new development, but I don't have any money left to recapitalize what I already had? So that's what we're paying for today with this plan, is to bring everything up to speed. It's no one's fault. We all thought we were doing the right thing. Everybody wants to keep rates low, but that's kind of how we got here. You know, you get what you pay for, and City Council's our rate-making body and said we are not going to give you a rate increase. There's more to the story about deregulation and all the pressures that happen there, but the bottom line is we are where we are, and we're going to make it more modern. I'll give you one acronym to remember. It's called FLISR. Fault Location, Isolation, and Service Restoration. We're putting 2,000 switches, big switches, out in the electrical system. And what these switches do with the control system is, if you can imagine, remember I said there's 400 circuits, so we're going to put 5 switches on every circuit, or 4 or 5 switches on every circuit. Today, beginning of the circuit, end of the circuit, and 1,000 customers in between. A tree falls on a line, all 1,000 customers go out. And then our linemen go out there and walk the line to try to figure out where it is. Tomorrow, let's just say there's 4 switches in there, so we're dividing that circuit into fifths, right? Tomorrow, a tree falls on the circuit. Everybody goes down for a second. The system with those switches is smart and goes, where is it? Starts opening and closing switches and then goes, boom, I'm going to open the switches on each side of where that tree is, close the rest of the switches and feed it from somewhere else. So now, instead of 1,000 people being off, 200 people are off. So 80% improvement in outages. And it also tells them you don't have to look anywhere else. Look right here. That's where the problem is. We do that today, but we do it with our team. And that takes 5 to 6 to 8 hours to get that done because they're out there pulling breakers and reprioritizing things. But this Flizzer system will do it automatically in 3 minutes. That's already paid for. So to build it all out, we're asking for a federal grant to help us get it done. But this isn't like a future thing. This is like a right now thing. We have 400 of those switches installed already. So we're going to build those out another 800 or so in the next year or two, and then we'll get to the full 2,000 by year 2027. So that's really going to help with our resiliency, our reliability, additionally putting in new infrastructure. And the last thing that I really need your help on, and everybody's going to collective moan, is we have got to start cutting some trees, folks. We have a wonderful tree canopy here. But we also have overhead electrical distribution. 60% of our system is overhead, 40% is underground. You can imagine where the overhead is. It's all in the core of the city. It's also where the oldest, biggest trees are. And so we got choices, and I'll let you all vote on the choice. We can underground all of that, and for the next 100 years, you can all pay twice or 3 times what you pay on your electric bill today. That's a choice. We can do that. We can leave things the way they are and have irregular power, but a wonderful tree canopy. Or we can, as people hate me saying this on my team, we can butcher some trees, cut them back from the power lines so they're not a risk, improve the electrical distribution system, and nobody's rate goes up, but we have more reliable power. The one thing I'll say is I need help. Nobody likes their tree to be butchered. And I'll say it like that because I know that's what everybody tells me we're doing. The thing is, when Jim grows a 90-foot oak in his front yard, and it's 20 feet from the power line, and his branches are in there, and every time the wind blows, his branch hits, everybody downstream from Jim's power goes out. Is that an MLGW issue, or is that Jim's issue? Well, we're working with people to say that's kind of a dangerous situation. It's a dangerous tree, and maybe we ought to have it removed. One thing I do know about trees is they will grow back, especially in Memphis, Tennessee. International paper, that's one thing they used to say is, hey, use the paper, we'll grow more, right? So it's a polarizing issue, but it's proven to work. The number one reason for power outages is for branches coming into contact, and I'm not picking on Jim, it's just because Jim and I know each other pretty well, so I feel like I can pick on him. But number one cause of outages is tree branches coming into contact with primary wires or falling on there. So it makes sense we've got to cut those back. Now, if I'm cutting the tree in half, you might want to just take the whole thing down, right? And then plant something else in its place. But we have to do that. So our plan is vegetation management, improve the infrastructure, put those things like new wires and new breakers and new fuses in, and then put that automated restoration system called Flizzer in. And that will really improve our reliability dramatically. So, last thing I'll say before I take questions. I have a number of priorities for the organization. The only priority I asked my team to remember, because I have 10 of them, because everything falls from that, I said, our priority is that we are going to earn our customers' business. Now, I know that you don't have a choice, but I should act like you do. And far too often, we don't act like you have a choice. Because we are, and this is the danger of having a monopoly on anything, and you guys have seen that in other areas where there's a monopoly. People don't feel like they have to give you the choice. So everything stems from that. Act like they have a choice. We're on our way. We're on our way. The street lights that were out in the city, I challenged our team. I said we had 1,600 outages out of 109,000 lights. We're going to cut that in half by the summer. Well, they started in February and they cut it in half by March. And they said, boss, we're going to cut it in half again by the summer. So that's a good start. Embarrassingly, the organization had our call center when you all call in if there's a trouble with your bill, because not everybody wants to do it online. In October of last year, anybody know what our average speed of answer time was? Just take a guess. It seems like 5 hours, yeah. Well, the average speed of answer was 48 minutes. I'm not waiting for 48 minutes for somebody to answer the phone. So I said, we have got to get this back in line with norms. And so I asked our team to fix it. I didn't say, here's how to fix it. I asked them, what would you do to fix this, and how would you do it? A couple of things came up. They were all mandated to come to the call center every day. They had a dress code. If they were a minute late, they were docked, and they were fired if they were a minute late 2 or 3 days later. What are we doing? I just want you to answer the phone. I don't care what you wear. I don't care where you work. I just want you to answer the phone and have an answer for people. So the team said, here's the stuff we'd like to do. We'd like flexible work hours. We'd like this. We'd like a flexible workplace. I could work a lot better if I just had everything I needed at my house. And in exchange, I'll agree when you have a storm, I'll just come online at night instead of having to come in and we tried to pull people in to answer the phone. That's why if there's a storm, there's nobody to answer the phone, because people are like, man, I've been forced to be in there all day. I'd rather be at home. Well, now, if you call at night, they're there because they're at home. They already got the stuff. They just put it on and start answering the call. So they told me, I said, we think we can get from 48 minutes to 9 minutes by July. So, wow, that would be impressive if you could do that. In February, they came to me and said, we can't do it. We think we can get to 9 minutes by March. So, okay, because they started seeing a little bit of success. And before the end of February, they came to me and said, we're not going to be at 9 minutes in March. We're going to be at 5 minutes in March. So, okay. All right, that's your goal, right? We agree. You guys set that goal. They said, yes, sir, we got it. In March, they came in at 3.4 minutes. And then they said, our new goal is 90 seconds by July. They set that goal, not me. Because I asked them to earn our customers' business. And then said, y'all figure out how we do that. But let's figure out how to serve our customers better. And that's going to translate into everything that we do. So with that, I realize I've talked too long, and I'll take some questions from y'all. Yes, sir.
I remember the show of hands a few minutes ago about who uses gas
Yes, sir.
and electricity. The huge majority was gas.
Yep.
As we know, the government now is threatening to limit the use of gas. Back, I think it was in the 80s, we had a severe cold spell. And what I heard was that the gas lines froze.
Yep.
It cut off the gas. It didn't happen in December, and apparently MLGW did something to prevent that happening again.
Yep. There's a lot that happens in the pipelines. We have 3 transmission lines that come through here. We're one of the only cities that has that, so we have abundant gas. We also have something called a liquid natural gas plant. If you all know what liquid natural gas is, you've seen that. We invested in this years ago. The idea was if we're ever cut off from the natural gas supply, we're going to take natural gas and we're going to turn it into liquid and we're going to store it. And then if we get cut off, we'll have enough gas to last us for 4 or 5 days. We've never had to use that. We liquefy it and we sell it to other people. And when we sell it to other people, we sell it to them at a premium. And quite frankly, every year we save you about $2 or $3 million of your overall gas bill because we're selling liquid natural gas that we're just buying and selling at a premium. But we do have that backstop. If we ever needed it, we could survive for 4 or 5 days without any external gas because our liquid natural gas plant keeps that tank full and we're able to distribute it. We also have weatherization pieces that allow us to do that. During the deep freeze in Mississippi, they did have some shortage of gas, but we did not have it here. So our team does a really good job of making sure that's available to us. Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
How much help are public utilities going to get with the new infrastructure bill?
Quite a bit. So we've already had some help. The new infrastructure bill we've received between the city and Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, we got about $80 million. Memphis Light, Gas, and Water share, that was about $34 million. That was for that's for the clean water. So a lot of that went to the sanitary sewer system for the city of Memphis. $34 million came to us so we can make sure we rehabilitate our pumping stations and our filtration. And so we've already received $34 million. We applied for $59 million, which is a competitive grant for our gas system. We just learned that we did not get that. Interestingly, if you saw the states where they got that, it's pretty shockingly obvious what was driving the awards. It wasn't the need, it was some political wranglings, and I won't say which side of the aisle it was on, but that's really what happened there. We've applied for a $100 million electric grid resiliency grant, which will help me get those other things done. And we know there's more money coming. I know eliminating lead service lines is important to all of you. There's a whole bunch of money there. We've received some already, and we'll receive more. Some of that will just be a formula and will come to us. So we're going to get a heck of a lot of that money that will help us get done what we need to get done. But I'm not looking at that as the savior for Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. We're going to be self-sufficient, and we're going to make sure that we drive value for all of our ratepayers because of the money that you pay us for those utilities. Yes, sir.
Given that there is an increase in attacks on utility,
Yes.
physical structure and IT structure, how integrated is security with MLGW between those two silos?
Yeah, the very question was, there's a lot of attacks on physical infrastructure and electronic infrastructure for facilities, and you've seen that. You know, remember North Carolina, somebody was shooting at the substation. So I won't go into the details, but we have a sophisticated security system for physical security, sensors, cameras, and we actually have our own sworn officer complement that does random patrols, and they're actually stationed at some of the critical places. Electronically, we fight off, just like the city does, hundreds of millions of electronic attacks a year through our electronic media, through email and through our systems. We have a very robust electronic protection system for our system controls. So it's something we take very seriously, and we double down our efforts after we saw the recent rise in attacks. So it's something I think about every day.
Is there coordination between the two silos?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, they actually they all report to the same person. So I got physical and cybersecurity all report to the same person. So
We've
yes.
got one here and then one here.
Yep.
And that'll do it. Two more, please.
Thank you for being here, Doug. It's really been informative.
Sure.
I was going to ask you, with these electronic vehicles,
Yes.
how much is that being fueled by fossil fuels, and how are we going to approach that in 10 years?
Yeah. So it's a really good question. I think I think it's coming at us whether we like it or not. People are choosing to select that as a choice more and more frequently. I mean, Ford made its largest ever investment in batteries and electric vehicles. For me, the biggest challenge is to make sure that I can meet the demand for electricity. For all of us, the question is just, it's gasoline, it's coal, the retirement and reduction there. So what's the next thing that's going to fuel our economy and fuel our lives? There are some very real possibilities out there with hydrogen and some things that hydrogen is going to be able to do for us. And I'm not eliminating that I might be MLGWH in the future. I don't know. I could be delivering hydrogen for hydrogen-powered vehicles, hydrogen-powered energy, who knows. But it is something that is definitely on my mind, as I said at the beginning. That is coming at us at a pace that I don't know that anybody is exactly ready for. So we're engaged in that, and it's the number one priority for our team to make sure that I can deliver as much energy as we need. You saw that I went through, right before I got here, we went through a bidding process to say, should we leave TVA or not? And the question that they were asking at the time was, how cheap can we get our electricity? I'm not asking that question. I'm asking, how much do we need? Because it was based on what we needed then with a small factor. Things have fundamentally changed. How much do we need, and can we get it, are the right questions to ask. And then the other thing I would ask you all to think about as we talk about in the future, I know rate increases are nothing anybody likes to talk about. We have not had rate increases to even begin keeping pace with inflation here. Our rates are always the number 1, 2, or 3 lowest in the country. But the conversation at City Council and other places, like, how much does it cost? How cheap is it? You guys know in your lives, if you always go for the cheapest possible thing and don't think about value, then you end up getting a substandard product. And so the conversation I want to have is value versus affordability. If you make it the cheapest for everybody, you're going to get what you ask for. If you talk about value and affordability, there's a small segment of the population that needs some help making it affordable, but you drive value for 100% of the population. And so that's a different conversation to have about what do you want from a comfort and convenience standpoint. Because if I go cheap, I guarantee it's going to be inconvenient, because I'm not going to be as reliable or resilient as you need me to be. It's not a great answer to you, except that it's an issue that I have to contend with and make sure we're ready to respond when it gets here. Yes, sir. Okay.
Doug, I don't have a question. I have a comment.
Okay.
I
can't wait.
I've dealt with MLGW for more years than I care to admit.
Sure.
And have been rather heavily involved with them. And Doug McGowen is the best thing that's happened to MLGW in all those years.
Thanks for saying that, Jim.
And I already know you're doing good because I'm hearing from all the people involved that you're stirring the pot in a very positive way.
Sure.
And I just want to thank you for agreeing to take over the helm.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for everything you've done for this community as well. And I couldn't be more grateful to be here and share some of your time today. I really do mean that. I feel some kind of way when you have these superstars coming after me. But you have what a wonderful group. And I truly want to say thank you for giving some of your time. I know this is seasoned adults learning together, but you all have other things to do. And to come out in this kind of show of force to hear about your hometown utility is really amazing to me. And I appreciate you guys being interested enough to show up and to learn a little bit and to take action. And I'll be around if you during the next half hour for lunch if somebody wants to ask me a specific question. So thank you, Allie, for extending the invitation to me. You and Barbara have been wonderful to me over the years, and thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say one last round of applause. Just a magnificent presentation, and we're so grateful. This is Pastor Mike Weaver. Mike, as is our tradition, even though much of our staff is out of town, Mike's going to say a brief prayer for you and the hard job that you have, and for your team, Doug, and then he will bless the food. And then I hope many, if not most of you, will stay for lunch. Again, if you're kind enough and you have it, we'd ask a $7 donation for the lunch. And as Doug said, he'll stick around and ask a few questions. Just be sure and let him get a bite in every once in a while now, okay? And here's Pastor Mike Weaver.
I appreciate the opportunity. I know I'm not Chris Carter. I just wanted to look as good as he does. So I did my best to do that. I want to thank you, Doug. I never thought I'd say I'm thankful for Flizzer, but I'm thankful for Flizzer. And I love your comment about serve people better, because the Bible says, for the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and give his life. And I know you're that kind of man. I really appreciate him because he was a commanding officer at the Naval Base, and he was a fighter pilot, and I was an aircraft firefighter at the Marine Corps, for the Marine Corps at the base. I was in the air wing, so I'm really grateful for his service for our country too. But really appreciate the things that you have shared with us today. I took notes, and so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for all of y'all. Y'all are very some of the best people I've ever been around in my life. I don't know all of you, but I say you probably all are if I had a chance to know you. So let's pray for the food. Father, I thank you for Doug. I thank you for all that he's doing. I thank you for the knowledge and the wisdom that he has, and thank you for his idea that is to serve. God, you Jesus Christ was a servant, and God, we should serve as well. And Father, we just pray, express our gratitude for him for coming and being here. Thank you for Barbara and Allie for doing this. I thank you for all the people that are here to listen, God. Give us wisdom. And Father, we thank you for the food that we're about to have. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks again for coming. I hope most of you will stay. The lunch is back there. If you're going to make a donation, put it on your table. Remember, the meeting in May will be the fourth Thursday at 11 a.m. right here. It'll be David Waddell, CEO of Waddell & Associates. Thanks so much for all of you coming. We'll adjourn to lunch now.